Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams. With us, Chris King. Chris, good to see you. How's everything going there in the south of Carolina?
Well, it was fine until Karol Vejmelka decided that he wanted to channel his inner George Hairston and completely stand on his head last night and steal that game for the Coyotes. He got out. I mean, Arizona was outshot 46-18, but he managed to keep enough pucks out of the net for a 2-1 win. And I can't even fault Peter Mrazek for that, because the first goal that Arizona scored was one of those great fluke goals, where you shoot the puck wide of the net and it bounces back and it bounces over the goal right back to you so you can put it in. I thought I was watching a video game.
You might have been. It was crazy in those kind of games. I mean, you're going to get them every once in a while. And, even the Cactus have to come through occasionally. So there you go.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a crowd. I saw a lot of empty seats. They said there was over 10,000 there. They must have all been in the bathroom whenever they panned to the bowl.
Well, part of it too. They say that the announced crowd of 10,000, that counts season tickets. So you may not physically be there, but they count the season tickets. So let's say there's 3,000 with 7,000 season tickets. Or let's say there's 7,000 with 3,000 season tickets. Either way, it's they have funny ways of playing that routine,
Well, I mean, he could have put up a performance like that against somebody else. I didn't have to see it last night.
Well, yeah, and then you have to
He played well. I'll give him that. I mean, he had a shot that hit him under the mask, nearly knocked his helmet off. Mm-hmm. And he stayed in there. I mean, the shots were, I think, 21-6 in the first period, and he weathered that storm. And I mean, when you get outshot 46-18, you don't expect to come up with a win. But he did a good job. I got to tip my cap to him.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Before we get to all of the fun stuff we got for everybody today, let's talk a little bit about a couple of things going on with Caesars, our sponsor, and our buddies. All right, so let's first talk about what Caesars is going to do for you meaning everybody outside the state of New York, with what they've got, the promotion that we're doing here with Whiners and Whiners. Now, the key that you have to remember here is you have to use our promo code. If you're a first-time bettor with Caesars and the Caesars Sportsbook, what you're going to want to do is you want to use the app or their online service. And here's the deal. What they're going to do is, if you use the promo code for Whiners and Whiners, which of course is scrolling right there under the thing, which is the promo code is Winners, Video Winners. Okay, Video Winners. If you use the promo code Video Winners and you use the app for the first time, what Caesars is going to do for you is they're going to match every dollar you bet all the way up to $1,000. So whenever you bank your money there on the app or online, they'll match your first deposit and first bet up to $1,000. Now, if you happen to be in the state of New York where gambling has become legal this week, well, then we got what you call your Empire State deal. And that's really cool. All right. What you're going to be able to do with the Empire State deal is really impressive. You're going to be able to do this. And you're going to be able to get $300 in bonus cash on signing up. Okay. So you just sign up and establish an account, and they're going to match your first deposit up to $3,000 if you use the promo code Winners New. That's Winners New. All of it's in the show box below. Be sure to check it out. So no matter if you're in the Empire State, you're going to get $300 in bonus cash for signing up when you put your deposit in and put your first bank deposit in there, so that they will be able to match it all the way up to $3,000. So we got our deal for $1,000, and if you're in New York, we got a deal for you for $3,000. So that's a pretty good deal on both counts. So be sure to check it out in the show box below. We greatly appreciate our buddies at Caesars, and obviously you have to be 21 years of age to play, and also, as we say, both Caesars and ourselves, it's important to bet responsibly, okay? Okay, so moving on. We're going to go to the hardwood. So we're going to start with a game with a couple of teams we've seen before. Here we go.
Right, Jim, we're going to start in the Horizon League over there in the ever-popular town of Moon Township, Pennsylvania, where Robert Morris calls themselves home, just outside of Pittsburgh. They're going to host Wright State tonight. The Raiders favored by 5.5 points, and we like them here. Let's face it, the Raiders are 8-7 on the year. Robert Morris 2-13. Not a whole lot of good to talk about with the Colonials in that regard. Meanwhile, Wright State, they've won 6 in a row. They beat everybody's favorite team on the show here at Just Parlays, IUPUI. They beat them 72-58 Saturday. Robert Morris has lost 4 in a row. They fell to everybody's other favorite team from the state of Indiana that's not named Indiana or Purdue. That's right, it's Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. They lost to the Mastodons 76-70 on Sunday. Robert Morris has issues on the defensive end of the floor. You can't sugarcoat it. That's just the way it is. They're 335th in the nation, giving up 77.5 points a game. They're 315th in field goal percentage defense. They're 329th by giving up 8.9 threes a game. And just in case you thought maybe teams were shooting at volume, not really. The Colonials 337th in three-point defense as opposing teams shoot 37.3% from out there. Meanwhile, Wright State, they're 128th in scoring offense at 74.7 points a game. They're 103rd in field goal percentage defense. And more importantly, and this is always important when you get down to a game in crunch time when you're placing a wager, is can this team shoot free throws? Because, late in the game, that's always the strategy. Put the other team on the line, hope they miss a bunch of shots so you can get back in the game. Wright State, 24th in the nation. They shoot 77.1% from the line as a team. Let's not overlook Wright State beat NC State on the road a couple of weeks ago during this win streak. They're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 on the road against teams with a losing home record. Robert Morris, those numbers are ugly, folks. 5-21-1 against the spread in their last 27 overall, and they are 1-8-1 against the spread in their last 10 against teams with a winning straight-up record. I get it. Robert Morris, they've hung tough in some games. They gave Cleveland State a run last week. They gave Youngstown State a run as well. But, this is a Wright State team with a lot of momentum, 6 straight wins. You can't go against something like that, especially with the way that they play offensively. And like we said, Robert Morris, not good on the defensive end of the floor. Look for the Colonials to lose another one at home in front of literally dozens of students in attendance watching the Colonials go down in flames.
Well, let's move on from there to we got another mid-major.
Yeah, we're going to go to the Patriot League, and we're going to go to Annapolis, where our good buddy Pete Medhurst will be on the call tonight as the midshipmen host Colgate. Now, the Red Raiders were a good team a year ago, but Jordan Burns isn't there anymore, and it shows as Colgate has dropped to 5-10 this year after winning the Patriot League last year, going 14-2 in conference play. Meanwhile, Navy's 11-4 overall. They're 4-2 at home. Colgate an ugly 1-9 on the road. Not a good spot for them here. I'm surprised it's only a 2-point line. I know Greg Summers is questionable. He's missed the last couple games for Navy. He's their leading scorer. But, they've won without him. So kudos to Ed DeChellis and what they do up there in Annapolis. One thing they do well is defense. The midshipmen 15th in the nation in scoring defense, giving up just 59 points a game. Opposing teams shoot 40.5% from the floor, 4% from three-point range. Meanwhile, Colgate, they struggle when it comes to stopping opposing teams. 279th in scoring defense at 72.8 points a game. 272nd in field goal percentage defense at 44.6. 244th in three-point defense at 34%. Colgate is now 0-7 in their last 7 on the road against the spread. They're 0-5 in their last 5 road games against teams with a winning home record. Navy's gone 4-0 in their last 4 as a home favorite, and they are 8-1 in their last 9 at home against teams with a losing road record. Like I said, Colgate was a good team a year ago. things haven't gone their way this year, especially away from the campus up there in central New York. And it's going to be a tough night for them here in Annapolis. It'll be even worse if Summers plays for Navy. But look for the midshipmen to make it another win, ring up their 12th of the season as they beat Colgate at home. Like I said, our buddy Pete Medhurst will be on the call for that one.
Right. He's hoping that they keep riding this all the way to a tournament.
That would be nice. I mean, like I said, Chelsea's done a great job there. And the one thing that we talked about in the pre-show, Jim, that Navy has an advantage over a lot of other schools is you don't have a guy come in for a year and then leave.
Right.
I mean, you're there for 4 years. That's just the way it works. I mean, it panned out wonderfully when you had David Robinson there back in the 80s when everybody wanted him to suddenly, release himself from his commitment and go somewhere else.
And John Thompson said that he was the only 7-footer that when he went to the Navy measured up at 6'7", which is the most you could be and still be at the Naval Academy. So, wasn't quite sure he was standing totally on his tiptoes whenever when he got measured. But yeah, Navy's played well, and they play, as we said before, again in the pre-show, that they're a very disciplined team. They don't beat themselves, and that kind of discipline, that kind of veteran experience, and you're not doing anything to hurt yourself is usually a good recipe for winning.
Yeah, you can't overlook that, and like you said, you can't overlook the experience factor. Colgate's still struggling to find the right mix now with Burns gone. I mean, he was the Patriot League Player of the Year last year, but as with so many things, all good things come to an end, and that led to the end of his college career, and it left Colgate scrambling a bit.
For sure. Well, let's go down to the Big 12, where this is a conference that's got some pretty deep talent.
Yeah, you do. I mean, like we said, Baylor was the #1 team in the country. They lost to this Texas Tech team that we're talking about today, the other night. Again, one has to wonder why James Akinjo was trying to shoot a game-tying 3 when he was 1 of 7 from deep in that contest. But either way, Texas Tech played good defense. They beat Baylor 65-62. Meanwhile, we saw Oklahoma State. We told you they would lose at West Virginia against Bob Huggins and company Tuesday night, and they went down agreeably by 10 points, 70-60. Now they have to go to Lubbock and face a Red Raiders team that is 9-0 at home this year at the always exciting United Supermarket Center, the home of the Red Raiders. I thought the Texas Tech was going to slip a little bit after Chris Beard decided to take the job elsewhere, but they've really played well. I mean, they're still 15th in scoring defense at 58.5 points a game. They're 15th in field goal percentage defense at 37.8, and they beat the crap out of opposing teams on the glass. They out-rebound their opponents by 10.2 rebounds a game. That's been a problem for Oklahoma State. They don't do well on the glass, and that could cost them again here. Meanwhile, we just told you Oklahoma State lost to West Virginia. They're 1-7 in their last 8 overall against the spread. That includes their one win was the upset of Texas, but meanwhile they had that that win over Cleveland State where they had to go to overtime as a double-digit favorite. They're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 on the road against teams with a winning home record. Texas Tech 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 against teams with a winning record overall. 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 overall. I'm surprised that this line is only 7.5, considering what we've seen from Texas Tech. And like we said, when Oklahoma State went to Morgantown to face Bob Huggins the other day, that was a 3-point line. So you're saying that playing in Lubbock isn't that much worse than playing in Morgantown?
I'm not so sure. Well, the Cowboys, I don't know. The Raiders are 9-0 at home. And we already said it's tough to play in Morgantown. I can't imagine it's any easier to play in, at home where the Red Raiders haven't lost yet. So
especially when you look at the way they play defense, I mean, I thought they would taper off a bit. Like I said, since Beard took the job at Texas, but they're still playing very good defense, and they have the size to beat people on the glass, and that could cost Oklahoma State again. If you look, I mean, the Cowboys just simply aren't that good when it comes down to games against good opponents.
Right. And they're not that great inside either. So
Right.
you better hit, because you're not going to get a rebound. That's for sure. Well, you know what? We've already talked about Oklahoma being on thin ice. Let's move to the ice, to the NHL.
Real quick, Jim, let's touch on, James asked us before
Yeah.
the show, he asked us about Oakland and Cleveland State. You're talking about two really good teams in the horizon there. I mean, Oakland is 11-4. They're 5-0 in the conference. They're going on the road to face a Cleveland State team that's 10-3. They're 6-0 in the conference. So you're basically looking at a battle for the top spot in the horizon there. You got a couple really there are teams that nobody talks about except us, because you know, we could be gluttons for punishment, I guess, is what some people would tell you. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, Oakland, they've played well. They've beaten everybody they've come across lately. Their losses were at West Virginia by 7. They were blown out at Alabama back in November, and they lost by 1 to Bowling Green. Their other loss, a 12-point loss on a neutral floor to Michigan State. So they're not losing to bad teams. You look at Cleveland State, they started 0-2. They've won 10 of 11 since. Their one loss in that stretch after losing to BYU and Ohio to start the year, they lost to Oklahoma State in overtime in that game we just talked about a minute ago. It's going to be interesting. I mean, playing in Cleveland, they're at the Wolstein Center. You know, it's not a massive building. You know, it seats about 8,500 people.
Right.
But you have to wonder, how's Oakland going to respond on the road?
It's a nice campus, on-campus building. The Wolstein family is a big family in Cleveland with investments and such, and they do everything from invest in different types of buildings downtown to promoting concerts. And at one point in time, they owned the Cleveland Force of the Major League Soccer. So nice people, the Wolstein family. I've had the pleasure of knowing them for a long time, and they invested in Cleveland State. So,
well, one thing you're going to see there probably is a lot of points. I mean, both these teams well above average offensively. Cleveland State averages 76.4 points a game. Oakland 75.8. It's a thin line. Cleveland State's favored by 1.5. But you know, the Vikings are 8-1 at home. The Golden Grizzlies 3-3 on the road. I would probably lean towards Cleveland State, but if I'm Oakland, what I do is I circle the date of, well, let's see, where is it? February 26th on my calendar, because that's when Dennis Gates and Cleveland State have to go to Oakland to face the Golden Grizzlies in the regular season finale. So
that could be for the championship of that division.
Exactly. That could be a conference title game. Meanwhile, the other game he asked about, James asked about Belmont and Austin Peay. Belmont 12-3. Casey Alexander has done a great job there. He's got a lot of returning depth. Nick Muzinski came back as a senior. They've got Grayson Murphy. They got Luke Smith. They brought back a ton of returning experience, and that's something that you can't overlook. They actually have 77.6% of their minutes this season came from players that played last season, which is 14th in the nation. Belmont shoots 60.8% from inside the arc. That's 3rd in the country. They're coming off 7 straight wins. Of those 7 wins, 5 of them have come by at least 12 points. The 2 that didn't were a 5-point win at St. Louis, who's a good team in the A-10, and an 8-point win at home over Chattanooga. Their last 2 games, they whipped Southeast Missouri State by 40 to open conference play, and then they whipped Tennessee Martin by 26 on the road. Austin Peay, their team going the other way. They beat Dayton early in the season on the road, which is impressive. It's their best win of the year. However, the Governors have as many wins over teams that are in Division I as teams that aren't. They're 4-9. They've split their wins 2-2. They've lost 6 straight, including, we said this yesterday, Jim, they have the dubious distinction of losing to both North and South Florida.
There you go.
Sure, they don't have Central Florida on their schedule, or they could have completed the trifecta.
Right. They could have gotten all the directional schools in the state. But they're laying 26, right? That's Belmont is.
I think that's what the line is. I'm going to just take one quick look here to double check and see if it shifted at all. It's actually shifted down. It's Belmont by 22.
Okay. Because I think James had it up there saying 26 is what they were.
Yeah, he said they beat their last opponent by
They
26.
beat their last opponent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I had to double check because I think it was actually up around 26 originally.
Yeah.
But the Governors, if you look, they lost by 7 to North Florida. They lost by 9 to South Florida. They lost by 26 to Vanderbilt. They lost to Tennessee Martin by 3. And we just said that was a team that Belmont beat by 26. They lost to Southeast Missouri State by 19, and that's a team that Belmont beat by 40. And they are coming off an 11-point loss to Morehead State. I get 22 is a lot of points, but you look, and Austin Peay's not good on either end of the floor. They're 305th in offensive efficiency, 303rd in defensive efficiency. I'd have to think that Belmont should win this one.
And they're on the road.
Yeah, they should win this one very comfortably, playing at home at the Curb Event Center.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to the ice. And
Righto. Sorry about the delay there, Jim.
Yeah, not a problem. We want to answer questions when we can from our audience out there. The Isles and the Devils at the UBS Center in
what is it? Belmont? Is that what it's called?
It's Yonkers, which is where Belmont is.
Okay.
There's New York. So it's on the tip of the island, just before it's where you just start to move out to the island. So technically,
that's right at the other end where you just drive into the Sound.
Yeah. So it's right there. Technically, it's the beginning, if you will, of the island. So that's why they can still call themselves the Islanders.
And the Islanders are a hefty favorite tonight over New Jersey. New Jersey 14-17-5. The Islanders 10-12-6. They haven't played all that much because of COVID issues and everything else. The Islanders 4-5-3 at home, but they've gotten better after starting 0-5-2. The Devils just 5-10-2 on the road. The Islanders 11th in goals against at 2.75. The Devils are 26th. They give up 3.39 goals a night. And it's going to be a tough night for the Devils in net. John Gillies, who's 0-1-1 with a 297 goals against and a 902 save percentage, will take between the pipes for New Jersey as Mackenzie Blackwood was placed in the COVID protocols earlier this week. Also, Jonathan Bernier still out with an injury. The backup goalie for the Devils, who knows, could be you for all we know, because all we know is the guy that's going to be in net or as the backup has no NHL experience. That's the most information we've gotten from New Jersey at this point. So, hey, they could just take some guy out of the crowd. Meanwhile, Ilya Sorokin, 8-7-5, with 246 goals against, the 925 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in net for the Islanders. The Devils struggle keeping the puck out of their own net on the road. They give up 4 goals a game, which could prove even worse when you got a guy that's got 2 games under his belt in the net. Mm-hmm. In the last 34 meetings between these teams, the Devils are just 9-25, and they've dropped 14 of the last 17 meetings on the island against the Islanders. Meanwhile, New York 4-0 in their last 4 as a favorite. They're 4-1 in their last 5 at home. They still don't score a ton, but Barry Trotz's team, they've played better of late. They're rested, and I look for them to come up with a win at home here to move within a game of 500 overall, mm-hmm. and even their record on home ice after that dreadful start that they had at the new arena.
It's interesting. Sorokin, you would think with Barry's penchant for defense would be a little better on the defensive side than he is, because he's not a bad goalkeeper at all.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to have bumped Semyon Varlamov to the number 2 role there,
right.
Which probably isn't a bad thing. Varlamov hasn't been good. Well, he hasn't been as good as he was in a couple of years.
Right.
So, but facing a guy that nobody really knows anything about in New Jersey, of course, he could turn around and pull a Vejmelka like last night, but I'm not banking on New Jersey in this one.
Okay, moving on.
We got the Blues, and if you want to play, I put those both up there in case you want to play the money line or the puck line. The money line is a little bit steep, but I know some people like to chase that as opposed to worrying about multiple goal differences. Seattle 10-21-4, St. Louis 21-10-5. The Kraken were on the road last night against Dallas. We told you that they would lose. Guess what? They obliged us. They lost 5-2 to the Stars. Philippe Grubauer struggled again for Seattle. So it'll be expected to be Chris Dredger getting to make his 10th appearance of the season. He's 3-4 with a 349 goals against and an 892 save percentage. He's going to face Jordan Binnington, 11-7-3 with a 2.90 goals against, a 910 save percentage, and 1 shutout for the Blues. St. Louis, they've got a good offense. They're 6th in the league with 3.44 goals a game. They get to face a Seattle team that's last in goals against at 3.71. Kraken 3-13 in their last 16 games when they scored 2 goals or less their last time out. They're a dismal 2-14 in their last 16 against Western Conference opponents. You have to wonder if they want to transfer to the East. St. Louis 11-1 in their last 12 at home and 7-1 in their last 8 as a favorite. With Tarasenko and O'Reilly and the rest of those guys in the Blues roll out there, Jordan Kyrou. The Kraken, they struggle in their own zone. They've struggled to put the puck in the net lately. You can't have a ton of faith, even with Dredger, who's arguably probably played better than Grubauer, just hasn't gotten enough time in net for them. St. Louis has played well at home. You have to think that they'll pick up the victory here and beat Seattle and send the Kraken to a loss in the back half of that 2-game set.
That 2-game set, yeah. Well, that's part of the problem when you're an expansion team. You have to go on the road, play some of these teams, and things don't go your way. So we'll move on from there, and I think we have a trip to Pittsburgh, right? Oh, right, no, Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're going to the building formerly known as the Staples Center because we don't feel like calling it whatever it is. The Penguins, right? The Penguins favored over the Kings tonight. The Penguins 21-9-5. The Kings 18-13-5. Pittsburgh coming in off a 4-1 win Tuesday night on the pond in Anaheim over the Ducks. The Kings beat the Rangers 3-1 at home Monday night. Going to be a good goaltending matchup. Tristan Jarry, 18-6-4 with a 191 goals against, a 932 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in goal for Pittsburgh. He probably should have started the other night, but they started Casey DeSmith, and nobody really likes him, but now dismissed in the protocols. So Jarry gets to reclaim the top spot between the pipes. Jonathan Quick, who seems to almost always start for the Kings, 10-8-4 with a 240 goals against, a 921 save percentage, and 2 shutouts between the pipes for Los Angeles. Big thing for Pittsburgh, Evgeny Malkin made his season debut Tuesday night after missing the first nearly 3 months of the season. He scored twice. Now that just adds another weapon to the Penguins' offensive attack. You talk about the rich getting richer with Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust and Jake Gunsel and the rest of those guys. You have to feel bad for some of these teams in the Metropolitan Division because the Penguins could make a move. Penguins 4-0 in their last 4 when their opponent allows 2 goals or less. They're 5-0 in their last 5 against the Pacific Division. They're 7-1 in their last 8 as a road favorite, which is something you don't always see. Kings 4-13 in their last 17 as a home underdog. And the Kings have problems stringing together victories. They're just 3-7 in their last 10, coming in off a victory. Maybe the Penguins and Kraken can switch divisions because the Penguins seem to own the Pacific and the Kraken struggle against Western Conference teams. Just switch them up.
Well, give the teams in the East a chance to drop by Vegas for a little while. I don't think anybody would mind that trip.
No, probably not. And then, you can go up to Pike Place Market up there, get some fish.
Right.
Maybe stop by Starbucks.
Yeah. Have some fun. All right. Well, we're going to go from the Penguins and the Kings to
the Hardwood.
Yep, the Association.
Yep, we're going to go right to the Mile High City, where if you're a Portland Trailblazers fan, I feel bad for you. They're a 10-point underdog tonight against the Nuggets. Denver, they're just 1 game above 500, but Portland is 16-24, and probably more damning than that, they're 2-13 on the road. Meanwhile, the Nuggets are 9-7 at home, which isn't all that impressive, but it's a lot better than 2-13. I feel, like I said, I feel bad for Portland. Portland will have their top four leading scorers sitting on the bench. Like Jim said, they'll probably have the best dressed bench in the NBA because Damian Lillard is out with abdominal tendinopathy. He's apparently going to undergo surgery. They're not sure what his timetable will be for a return. Could be 6 to 8 weeks. They might just hold him out the rest of the year at this point because Portland is going nowhere fast. CJ McCollum still out with that collapsed lung. Larry Nance Jr. out with a knee injury. Norman Powell is out with, what was it? Norman Powell is, that's right, he's in the protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony Simons is out with a personal issue. Those four guys, Powell, Lillard, McCollum, and Simons, put up more than 74 points a game for Portland this year. So good luck. You've got Yusuf Nurkic and insert name here.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Zeller is doubtful for Portland. Not
that we can't get our buddies, the Lakeland Magic, to make a trip to Portland just to give them a hand out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be rough for Portland here. I mean, Denver, they're 8th in the league in scoring defense at 105.6 points a game. Portland is 26th. They give up 112.5 points a game. On top of that, they're last in field goal percentage defense at 47.7%, and they're last in three-point defense at 37.6%. If that wasn't bad enough for you guys that are still hanging to hopes for Portland, they're 3-14 against the spread in their last 17 on the road. They're 2-9 in their last 11 as a road underdog. Denver's 4-1 on the road or at home in their last 5 against teams with a road winning percentage below 400. And Portland has gone 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 meetings between these teams. You're looking at a Portland team minus their top 4 scorers. Denver has Nikola Jokic leading the way there. Mm-hmm. Will Martin is expected to play tonight as well. Portland should have just stayed home.
Yeah, I think if I'm Portland, I might have made a phone call and see what University of Oregon was playing tonight. If not, I might have shipped them out to play this game for you.
Well, I think they might have been out of luck. I think Oregon's playing UCLA tonight.
Oh, well, there you go. Down in Poly Pavilion or up in Oregon?
I think it's at Westwood.
Okay, it's Poly Pavilion. All right, well, Denver, too bad, Portland. What can we tell you? Take your oxygen masks. You'll need them.
Or was that last night when they played? Let's see. Oh, no, it is tonight. They play at 9:30 at the Poly Pavilion.
Okay. Which is in Westwood, so you're technically right. On the John Wooden Court.
Yeah, that's why I call it Westwood, just because, Wooden was the Wizard of Westwood.
That's right, he was. And their first announcer was Dick Enberg. So there you go.
Oh, my.
Oh, my. Yeah. So we go from the Denver area in the Mile High City to
the Big Apple.
The Big Apple. The borough of Brooklyn.
The Thunder and the Nets, I actually looked for this one to stay under this number. 218.5 seems high. I was worried about picking a side here because Brooklyn's playing the second game of back-to-back. They beat the Bulls last night, 138-112. Of course, Kyrie Irving should not be in the lineup tonight for Brooklyn. And, Jim, you can enlighten everyone about that fiasco here in a minute.
Yeah.
The Nets, they've struggled in the second game of back-to-backs this year. They're 2-4 with a minus 3.2 scoring margin in those games. The average total in those games, 212.2 points. The Knicks 18th in scoring, or the Nets 18th in scoring defense at 108.7, but they're second in field goal percentage defense at 43.4%. They are first in three-point defense at 32.2. Meanwhile, they're facing an Oklahoma City team that is last in the league in scoring offense at even 100 points per game. They're also last in field goal percentage at 41.5%. They're last in three-point shooting at 30.7. You can't really expect a ton of points out of the Thunder. Like I said, Irving's not going to play. You have to wonder, will Steve Nash rest Durant and or Harden? Harden played last night despite having tendinopathy in his knee. Will they rest all of those guys for this one? The under 4-1 in the Thunder's last 5, when their opponent scores 100 points or more in their last game, it's 5-2 in the Thunder's last 7 overall, and it's 5-1 in the second game of the last 6 back-to-back situations for the Nets. Brooklyn won't need a ton of points to beat Oklahoma City because Oklahoma City doesn't tend to score a lot. That game against Washington the other day notwithstanding. I look for Brooklyn to shut it down. It'll probably be one of those games that ends up, 105 to, 90 something, and ends up short of the number. But Jim, tell us about how the Nets are trying to get Kyrie Irving to get to play at the Barclays Center.
Well, what's going on is Kyrie Irving what the Nets are doing is they're making a plea to the city of New York that to try to see if they can figure out a way to get Kyrie Irving on the court. And what they're doing is they're talking to them about the fact that Kyrie Irving has consistently, done his tests, and the bottom line here is that Brooklyn might be willing to pay any fines that he might incur. So let's just, according to the Daily News, the penalties listed in New York City under former Mayor Bill de Blasio's executive order was a first offense of $1,000, a second offense of $2,000, a third offense of $5,000, and a fourth and fifth subsequence also being fined. They only have 20 home games left. So in theory, the way to get him on the court might be just to literally pay off, and I hate to put it that way because it's technically they're paying fines, but pay the city of New York what could potentially be, I guess, $100,000 in fines to get Kyrie Irving on the court, which, if you're the Nets, it might be worth that $100,000 to pay the city of New York to get him back on the court. So that's what's going on right now. Whether or not remember that there is a new mayor in New York, Eric Adams now. Eric is, ironically, was, I should say, an alderman from Brooklyn, and so. But he's also a very strong law and order kind of guy. So I'm not, there. I think what they were quoted, the front office was quoted of Brooklyn being cautiously optimistic. I think cautiously optimistic should be just amended to optimistic. That's about what I would say, or cautious, whichever one you want. But yeah, there's still ways to go with that, and the concept of paying your way out of this, I'm not so sure is going to go down well, but we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Well, from your perspective, Jim, don't you think that's kind of circumventing the concept that they put out originally? I mean, doesn't that set a bad precedent for, Joe Blow on the street?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I'm a little concerned that, if it was Bill de Blasio, they might be able to pull it off. But Eric Adams is not is not the kind of guy who's just going to say, well, let's just buy your guns, buy guns here. Because in essence, they're basically saying we can afford to pay fines, and that's the way we're going to get them in. It's to your point, it's in some ways, what's going on with Djokovic down at the Australian Open, right?
That's true.
On one hand, the country said, no, you can't do it. A judge ruled that he might be able to. They literally held the draw yesterday. They held it up till they found out that Djokovic might be able to play. He's now seated as the top player in the tournament on the men's side, where he would be defending his championship. But we don't know until Monday if Djokovic is even going to play, and if the tournament starts, and if there is yet another court case, he might be pulled during the tournament. So there's a lot to be said for that. I don't know what's going on with Kyrie Irving. If it were me, I'd just say get the damn shot, but that's just me.
He still thinks the earth is flat. So, there is that.
He's a great basketball player. But sometimes, look, we can get political about this. I don't want to get political about it. At the end of the day, is Kyrie Irving helping his team by not doing what other players on his team did?
Right.
Is he being selfish, and is he just being pig-headed and not doing what, as I said, other members of his team did? And now to try to run to the front office and see if they can figure out a way to get it done. I don't know. They for all I know, Brooklyn's praying to maybe get sequestered in Orlando like a bubble when they played the bubble situation where he could play all the time. I'm honestly a little tired. This is almost like the Ben Simmons thing in Philadelphia. It's like, when is enough going to be enough? And with Kyrie, it's an ongoing soap opera. And,
well, yeah. If you look, the Nets have backtracked. First, they said they weren't going to accommodate him as a part-time player.
right. Mm-hmm.
And we were going to have him as a part-time player on the road, and now they're trying to circumvent what you said as executive order from de Blasio.
Right.
I understand he's not in there anymore, but still, how much further are you going to slide to that side of the thing? What's going to be next? Well, we don't care. We're just going to pay people off so he can play.
The problem is when he does play, he plays well, and that's when let's go just one quick step further. Go back a few weeks ago when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had trouble with wide receiver, and Antonio Brown came off a suspension. Bruce Arians had a decision to make. Do I put him back on the team or do I cut him? And had they not had a couple of wide receivers go down, you have to wonder if Bruce wouldn't have just gone ahead and said, you know what, this whole Antonio Brown situation is gotten to be, a bridge too far. But he was in, he wanted to win, and he didn't have the wide receivers, and so he let Antonio Brown come back. And then there was the third quarter meltdown the other day, at the stadium. So over at the Meadowlands. So, it is what it is. If you play with fire with some of these players, they're going to burn you. And at the end of the day, is it worth the talents of Kyrie Irving to as you say, try to circumvent the rules just to get him in? And what kind of precedence does that set for the rest of the team who actually played by the rules?
Well, not even just the rest of the team. What about the rest of the league? What if you have somebody that's not vaccinated that comes to New York and they tell him he can't play?
Mm-hmm. Right. And what about the
situation? Say, well, you let Kyrie Irving play.
Right, exactly. Or what does it show the fans, right? I mean, they've got to be a little perplexed. So we'll see how this plays out. But I have a feeling that this whole soap opera with Kyrie Irving is nowhere near to being over yet.
I agree.
So from here, we go to
Memphis,
Beale Street.
Yep. They're favored by 4.5 over the Timberwolves tonight. Minnesota 20-21. The Grizzlies 29-14. Memphis, they won 10 straight. They beat Golden State the other night in a game where I did not think they would win, so kudos to them. They still won't have Dylan Brooks. He's going to be out until sometime in February with that ankle sprain. Yves Pons also out with an ankle injury. Steven Adams is questionable. But fortunately here, the Grizzlies are third in the league in scoring offense at 112.2 points per game. Memphis is 19th in scoring defense. This has the potential to be a track meet because Minnesota likes to run. Memphis likes to run. The problem is Minnesota is not all that great defensively, and you have to wonder if they can keep up. Memphis is 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 after an ATS win. They're 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 after a straight-up win. So not only are they beating teams, they're covering the line too. Mm-hmm. That's what you don't necessarily see. Sometimes you'll see a team rip off 8 or 10 in a row, but they're a 500 team against the spread. Memphis is 4-0 in their last 4 against teams with a losing straight-up record. And let's face it, Minnesota hates going to Bluff City. They are 8-23 against the spread in the last 31 meetings in Memphis, and they're just 5-16 against the spread in the last 21 meetings between these teams overall. The Grizzlies are playing great basketball. They've shot right up to the top of the Southwest Division, starting to put some distance between themselves and the Mavericks, because nobody really needs to talk about the Spurs or the Rockets or the Pelicans as far as who's going to come out of that with a division title. So if Memphis stays hot, they could pretty much lap the field like we see in some of these other divisions right now. And that'll bode well for them after being a team that was stuck in the play-in tournament last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the Minnesota Timberwolves will be sitting there watching the Ducks walk out of the hotel there in Memphis, and it's going to be a tough night for them. The Grizz are playing. Look, you said there's 10 in a row now that they've got.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, they're playing well, and evidently the Timberwolves are stuck on Mud Island down there. They can't seem to get out of Memphis without losing. Another trip back to Shelby County Airport in Memphis to take them home, a loser this time.
Yeah, the line actually has gone down to 4, so it's even better if you're a fan of Memphis. But, I mean, you look at the teams that Memphis has beaten in this win streak.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody's going to talk about, they beat Sacramento on the road and they beat Detroit at home. But they've also, in that stretch, they've beaten Phoenix in Phoenix.
Whoa.
Saying something. They beat the Nets in Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
They beat Cleveland. They've beaten the Lakers twice, once at home, once on the road. They beat Golden State, and they whipped the Clippers. So, I mean, you're not just – and I know that we get a lot of mileage out of picking on Gene Smith,
mm-hmm.
but you're not playing the little sisters of the poor here. You're not playing the Houstons and the Detroits and the Orlandos and the Oklahoma Cities of the league. You're playing some quality opponents. And like I said, in that 10-game stretch, Memphis has gone 9-1 against the spread. Their one loss against the spread in that stretch, they beat the Lakers by 5 as a 6-point favorite. So it was a miss.
I was just going to say, we talk about Phoenix and Golden State as being the two best teams in the West. And the Grizzlies in this 10 games took them both on. So
right.
That ain't for nothing. And Phoenix, as you say, they beat Phoenix in Phoenix. So,
yeah, and they beat Golden State at home, and
yeah,
and that was with Klay Thompson back too.
Yeah, it ain't for nothing. That's for darn sure. Well, before we go to 2 for the show, let's go back and talk about our sponsors, our buddies at, that's right, Caesars Sportsbook. Now, first, they have a deal for those of you outside of the state of New York. And here's the cool part. Caesars, because they like us at Winners and Whiners, and who wouldn't like us? I mean, we're likable people. They're going to give our viewers and listeners the opportunity to get a deal. Now, you got to use our promo code, which is Video Winners. Okay, Video Winners is our promo code. And what Caesars is going to do, they're going to match your deposit and first bet all the way up to $1,000. That's right, $1,000 when you use their app or online for the first time. But you have to use that promo code, which, as I said before, is listed in our show box below. And that, of course, is Video Winners. Now, we just said that the Empire State has joined. The Empire Strikes Back. The state of Michigan, the state of New York is now part of the sports gambling aspect, and specifically the sports book aspect.
Probably all because Andrew Cuomo is gone.
That's probably true, and probably because Scott, Rochelle has finally got his lobbying situation through. Now, they got one heck of a deal for you. You get $300 in bonus cash when you sign up and begin, put your deposit in. And that goes all the way up to $3,000 if you use the promo code Winners New, okay? So we got 2 really cool deals for you from our friends at Caesars Sportsbook. Every bit of information about the 2 deals are in our show box below. Please visit And understand again that you must be 21 to enter. And of course, as we said before, both Caesars and of course, we at Winners and Whiners encourage you to bet wisely and prudently. Okay? All right.
Or just give us all your money and then you don't have to worry about it.
That's, we'll do it for you. Anyway, thanks to our buddies at Caesar Sportsbook. We greatly appreciate what they do for us. And we're going to go for 2 for the show. Or I'm going to hit the wrong button again. All right. 2 for the show. Here we go.
Yeah, like we said at the beginning of the show, I like Wright State -5.5 over Robert Morris. We said Robert Morris is 2-13 this year. Wright State has won 6 in a row. They beat everybody's favorite team, IUPUI, last week. I know that was disappointing for John Cena out there. I'm surprised he's not here talking about it because it's IUPUI Day, and we've got them coming up later in this show. So stay tuned for that. But the Raiders -5.5 over the Colonials. The Blues, like I said, I put the money line and the puck line in there, depending on which way you want to go with it. That's your own choice. The Blues 11-1 at home in their last 12. The Kraken, they lost 5-2 last night at Dallas, so they're playing the second game of a back-to-back here. Memphis, we just talked about it. The Grizz have won 10 straight. This line's actually gone down to Memphis -4, which is even better for you guys if you want to jump on that. Hard to argue with a team that's gone 10-0 in their last 10, 9-1 against the spread in their last 10, and like Jim said, beat Phoenix in Phoenix and Golden State at home in that stretch among their wins over other quality teams. And finally, the Penguins -140 over the Kings. The Penguins, they come in off 10 wins in their last 11 games. They got Evgeny Malkin back Tuesday night. He scored twice in the win over the Ducks. The Kings, they play well defensively, but I think they're still struggling enough offensively that the Penguins, now with the rich getting richer with Malkin in their lineup, come up with a victory on the road in the City of Angels and crown the Kings.
There you go. 2 for the money. Let's play 4 for the show.
And like we said, we've got Navy -2 over Colgate. Pete Medhurst will be on the call if you tune into that. Jim, do you know what station that's on? Is that
you can stream it on TuneIn, on your TuneIn app. It's WNAV Radio, which is the home of Navy Sports. So if you just look it up on TuneIn Radio, on your TuneIn app, which everybody should have if you're a sports fan, because it has all of the college games on it. Most of them anyway, 90% of them. Those who aren't on there, you can find on our buddies at iHeartRadio. I suggest you download both of those apps, and WNAV is what you're looking for, or WBAL. Either of those two will give you the Navy Midshipman with our buddy Pete Medhurst on the call. So WNAV or WBAL on TuneIn or on iHeart. So check them out.
Speaking of Pete, we should have him back in the near future, so stay tuned.
Well, absolutely.
Elsewhere, I like the Nashville Predators on the puck line over the Buffalo Sabres. In case you aren't tuning in, and most of you probably aren't because nobody wants to admit they root for the Sabres, Buffalo down 2 more goaltenders as Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was injured. He's out week to week now. Malcolm Subban is out month to month after he suffered an injury in that loss to Tampa Bay the other night. So it'll be Aaron Dell, who's 0-5-0 for the Sabres this season with a goals against over 4 in net against UC Saros for Nashville. Buffalo also had to sign Michael Hauser to a 1-year, $750,000 deal just so they'd have a goaltender to back him up. Dustin Tokarski still working his way back after getting violently ill from the COVID issues back in early December. Craig Anderson still out. They expect he'll be back sometime this season, but he's been out since November. So it's a tough time in net for Buffalo. They nearly got down to their emergency goaltender the other night, which is a 36-year-old guy from Buffalo State. Fortunately, he didn't have to suit up, but he probably couldn't have been any worse than Subban was in relief in that 6-1 loss to Tampa Bay. We talked about it earlier. Denver -10 over Portland. Portland's top 4 scorers not on the floor tonight. You'll see them in suits on the bench. The Nuggets playing at the Ball Arena. Portland 2-13 on the road. You have to think that the Nuggets can take care of business. And we said the Islanders, they've gone 4-0-1 in their last 5 at home.
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey team that's down to John Gillies in net tonight and a guy with no NHL experience backing him up. The Islanders have played well of late after that horrible start to the season. Our buddy John has season tickets to the Islanders over there at the UBS Arena. I'm sure he'll be there tonight to root on New York as they take on their hated fans or their hated rivals from across the bridge in New Jersey.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, maybe one of the Sopranos would be in goal for New Jersey. You never know.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, they could put somebody in there.
And it wouldn't be a show if we didn't have the Pick 'em All group or pick a little of them all. Here we go. Let's go with what we like to call Shot in the Dark, or our homage to the late, great Jack Buck. And that is basically the old saying, take it all, baby. It's all here. Go crazy. And look who's at the top of this list.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see a horrible game that'll probably set basketball back 50 years, it's in Green Bay tonight. IUPUI coming in off their season best 65 points last week in their loss to UIC. Traveling to face Green Bay, the Phoenix are 2-12. The Jaguars are 1-12. How being 2-12 makes you a double-digit favorite over a team beats me. So I'll take the points in the Jaguars. Might be the only time you see me say that all season, but I have no faith in a Green Bay team that has wins over such basketball luminaries as Wisconsin Superior. Oh, and by the way, their other win this season, they beat Robert Morris by 12. So kudos, you beat the team everybody else beats.
Right.
They're coming in on 7 straight losses. They lost by 24 to Youngstown State. They lost by 9 to Kansas City. They lost by 18 to Kansas State, 16 to Minnesota, 5 to Northern Kentucky, by 3 to Wright State, and by 14 at home to Milwaukee in their last game. You have to think that as bad as the Jaguars are offensively, they can hang in close enough to cover the line in that contest. After all, 2 of their last 4 losses for the Jaguars have come by 6 points or less. Seton Hall minus 5.5 on the road over DePaul. Seton Hall coming off that overtime win over UConn over the weekend. DePaul, I don't get what it is. They play well in non-conference play. They had that win at Louisville. Once they get into Big East play, they suck. They're 0-5 in the conference. Tony Stubblefield still trying to figure things out there in his first season. Jim, what do you think about why DePaul sucks when it comes to conference play?
I have no idea. I mean, it's they should play well because they actually get some of the kids in Chicago who are good street ballers. I mean, that they play. You would think they play the old Big East style basketball there, but there's the problem with DePaul is they're consistently inconsistent, and that just doesn't bode well. And Seton Hall, is a little more consistent than DePaul.
Yeah, I mean, you look, DePaul opened the year 9-1. Their one loss was a 4-point loss at home to Loyola Chicago, but since then, they lost at Butler. They lost at home to Providence. They lost at St. John's. They lost at home to Villanova, and they lost at Marquette.
Of all of these games on this list, and there's some really cool ones, the most intriguing one for me is UC Santa Barbara and Long Beach. Because Long Beach and Santa Barbara both have played pretty good basketball, even in losses. I watched Long Beach State play UCLA in what was kind of a makeup game. Not a makeup game, I'm sorry.
The game they threw together at the last minute.
The game they threw together in 34 hours. And they played UCLA well for, the majority of the game. And then UCLA, of course, with the bigger bench and the better talent, pulled away at the end. But they hung with UCLA for a long time. And UC Santa Barbara's played well. So to me, on this list of many wonderful opportunities, this is the most intriguing to me.
Yeah, and before we get to that one, Wisconsin minus 3.5 over Ohio State.
Right.
48-year-old Brad Davison, the 87th year senior,
Right.
Johnny Davis, they look to avenge a loss they suffered to the Buckeyes last month in Columbus when they were run out of the Value City Arena.
Mm-hmm.
But, we just saw Ohio State stumble the other day. And, playing in the Kohl Center is not fun for anybody.
Nope.
So I look for the Badgers to get a modicum of revenge there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Jim, UC Santa Barbara, they're 0-4 on the road this year, but I think that they can go on the road and beat Long Beach State. I mean, the Gauchos, they've suffered some tough losses. They lost at Pacific in overtime. They lost at UC San Diego in overtime. They haven't played in 2 weeks due to COVID issues. But, I mean, if you look, so the losses that they have, the only loss where they were blown out was at St. Mary's, and we know what a team that Randy Bennett has with the Gales up there. Meanwhile, Long Beach State, like you said, Dan Monson, his team hung well against UCLA. They covered the line in that game. They're coming off a 5-point home loss to Hawaii in their conference opener. And they're 4-9 on the season. I like to think that the Gauchos could take advantage of the issues that Long Beach State has defensively. They're 354th in three-point defense at 41.1%. They're 342nd in effective field goal percentage defense. You have to think that Santa Barbara can take advantage of that and pick up a win. On the hardwood, like we said, I like Oklahoma City and Brooklyn to stay under the number. The Nets don't score a ton of points in the second game of back-to-backs. The Thunder don't score at all. So that one shouldn't be a high-scoring game. New Orleans, -3.5 at home over the Clippers. The Clippers, in case you're wondering, still don't have Paul George or Luke Kennard or Kawhi Leonard or Justice Winslow or Jason Preston, or nobody really cares, but they don't have Isaiah Hartenstein either. Meanwhile, the Pelicans are pretty healthy outside of, not having Zion Williamson. Kira Lewis Jr. is the only other guy out for them. He's not really a big factor when you get down to it. Golden State on the road, favored by a 1.5-point underdog at Milwaukee. The Bucks are expected to be minus. Langston Galloway's in the protocols. J. Rue Holiday is still out with an ankle injury. Brooke Lopez, of course, still missing. And George Hill is questionable to come out of the protocols. Meanwhile, Golden State, they won't have Draymond Green. He's supposed to miss the game again with a calf issue. James Wiseman's still trying to recover from that knee surgery he had in the offseason. But other than that, it's full strength for the Warriors. I'm surprised they're an underdog. I mean, I know that Antetokounmpo and Middleton can cover a lot of blemishes, but still, I like Golden State with the points. On the ice, the Rangers going on the road to face the Sharks. I know the Rangers fell to the Kings the other night, but Igor Shesterkin is supposed to be back between the pipes for New York. Aiden Hill is supposed to get the call for San Jose. I like Shesterkin a lot better than I like Aiden Hill. I mean, Hill's a former backup goaltender in Phoenix for the Coyotes. And the Sharks, they're too inconsistent. The Rangers have played good hockey over the last couple of months, and with their number one goalie in net, you have to think they have a good shot there. Carolina's at home. I like them with the puck line just because the money line gets ridiculous. Last I looked, it was -275. It's actually now -290. Frederick Anderson, 18-5-0, 196 goals against in between the pipes for Carolina. Elvis Merzlikins, 12-8-1 with a 3.2 goals against, 907 save percentage for Columbus. The Blue Jackets were just beaten 4-2 by Chicago the other night. And in their last 5 games, they have surrendered, 24 goals and going 1-4 in that stretch. Not a good set of numbers against a Carolina team that's more than capable of lighting the lamp. And finally, Tampa Bay at home at the Amalie Arena over Vancouver. I know that we've talked, Jim, about how Bruce Boudreau has done a great job with the Canucks turning that team around. But let's be honest, going into Tampa Bay and winning at the Amalie Arena when Andre Vasilevsky is in the Tampa Bay net is pretty much a fool's errand.
And that's the longest, well, the it would be Florida down in Miami to Vancouver is the longest trip in the NHL. So from the NHL, they have to go from Vancouver down to the Amalie Arena. That's a long slug. It's actually almost the same distance as taking a trip from New York to London. So it's a long slug down there. So we'll see. Anything tonight before we leave that pops off the chart as something that you're looking at and going, this really looks pretty good to me?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't see how Wright State's only favored by 5.5. I mean, I don't see why Navy's only favored by 2. And I mean, in the NBA, like we said, Memphis has won 10 in a row. You can't argue with the way they've played basketball. The fact that they're only favored by 4 makes me wonder why. I mean, Minnesota's not that great of a road team, and they hate going to Memphis.
Well,
maybe they eat too much barbecue. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they've eaten some bad fish. You never know. Okay, we're gonna get out of here because at 3:00, our buddies Steve and Steve.
More clones, damn it.
Scott, yeah, Scott and Scott will be here to bring you back to the window and
special guest, Biff Tannen.
Yeah, exactly. And we will be back. We'll have a special guest for you tomorrow. Not that special. No, I'm just kidding. It is a special guest tomorrow. And we'll be talking a little bit about what's going on in the NFL on the weekends. So not only will we give you the Friday stuff, we'll throw a little weekend football in there for the, just because we're that kind of people.
Because Berman would tell you, as Chris Berman would tell you, it's the National Football League.
Right, exactly. Any last questions out there, Chris, before we sign off here? Anything that you see that we didn't get a chance to get to?
Looks like everybody wants to stay off. Everybody thinks the Seton Hall game is a trap, but I mean, until I see DePaul win something in the Big East, I have to fade them. I mean, I was hot on them earlier. I thought that they were going to beat St. John's last week. They pushed that one. But, I mean, they're 0-5 in conference play. And like Nathan said, I actually wrote that game for Winners and Whiners, Arizona, Colorado. I think the Wildcats should have no problem dispatching the Buffaloes playing at the McHale Center. After all, if you look, Arizona leads the nation in scoring offense at 89.9 points a game. They lead in rebounding, and they lead in assists.
Folks, before you get out of here, and there are a bunch of you out there, we love answering your questions, and by all means, and put some comments in there if you like. But definitely, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook or Twitter, smash the like button and tell everybody that you like us. Hit the subscribe button so that you'll get all the information on when we're going to be. Now, if you miss the show, or if you prefer to listen to it afterwards, we are also a podcast. So you'll be able to listen to the show. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Spreaker, which is part of the iHeart Network. All that information, just all you have to do is, go to your favorite place where you get your podcast. But we specifically say go to Spreaker or to Spotify, and those are the two places where very easy to go and get us. Okay, so you can watch us live, or if you can't make it, not a problem. You can listen to us on our podcast network as well. So we're making it easy for you guys to get in touch with us. Please comment, please subscribe, and please come back tomorrow at 1:30 because we're going to have some fun talking not only about what we normally talk about, but we're going to add the NFL and playoff weekend to that mix. So for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying, so long, everybody. We will see you very soon.